Happy Monday, Bell's palsyers. Today I would like to talk about the diagnosis of a stroke versus Bell's palsy and how you can differentiate it. So Bell's palsy basically constitutes a peripheral lesion, while a stroke is a central nervous system lesion that affects your motor cortex. So we can review a little bit of anatomy. The fibers that controls the lower face, they travel from the cortex down to the brainstem. And in the brainstem, these fibers cross over to the opposite side, and they go to create that facial nerve on the opposite side. You're gonna see this on the diagram right below this. The fibers that control the upper face, they take somewhat of a different path. And after traveling down to the brainstem, half of those fibers cross over to the other side, or what we call the contralateral side, and half of those remain on the same side, and they contribute to innervating those facial muscle on that very side. So a lesion that damaged the motor cortex, such as a stroke or an acute ischemic stroke, that will result in contralateral facial weakness of the lower face only. And you will have all the upper part of the face where the forehead muscles, your eyebrow muscles, and your eyelid, those are not gonna be so much affected. So basically, if you have a right side stroke, what you can expect would be weakness on this part of your face, so on the opposite side. Again, for the opposite side, if you have a left side stroke, you are going to experience mostly weakness down by your mouth and in that area. So it's going to droop a little bit. Now, so the eyes and forehead, they receive their innervation from both sides of the brain. So the lower face, again, only receive innervation from the opposite side. So what's going to happen is when you have Bell's palsy, you're gonna have the entire side of one face. That includes the lower part as well as the upper part. That's gonna be involved. And that's where, for a layman person, that is really where you should start in figuring out if, oh my gosh, half of my face is not working. Is that a stroke? Is it Bell's palsy? Another thing that I would, as a physical therapist, when I had Bell's palsy, to make sure that was just Bell's palsy, I tested my strength on the side of the paralysis. So that was my right side. So I made sure to test my right arm strength as well as my right leg strength. I did a few squats. I moved up and down stairs. I walked, and thankfully everything was fine. And that's kind of how I knew right away kind of what it was. So some of a few facial features, difference that you can observe. So with Bell's palsy, you'll have a drooping of the eye and possibly the forehead and eyebrow, with the inability to close your eyes or perform eyebrow movements. So none of any of this, including closing your eyes fully. While with a stroke, eye and eyebrow movement will be preserved. You should be able to do this. You might have just a slight droop in the eye, but you can still willingly close and open your eye. In both Bell's palsy and a stroke, you will have drooping of the lips, and it's just generally more prevalent with the lower lips. And you will also have a loss of the nasolabial fold, which is this, and that's definitely typical of facial paralysis, where you will have lost this area because everything is kind of drooped there, and there you don't have the tension of those muscles working anymore from the paralysis. So I hope that was helpful. Again, it's very most likely that you see this after the fact, but I think it's always good knowledge to have that you can pass on to somebody that you just learned had some similar symptoms, and maybe reassure them that it's not a stroke. But of course, as with everything medical, you should be assessed immediately, and especially if it's a stroke as well as Bell's palsy. Actually, those are both neural injuries, and the sooner you take care of those, the better your chance at recovery and rehabilitation. So never forget that. I hope that was helpful. Have a good evening.